Hi everyone, welcome to Draftscape's. I'm Chris Tuccio. In this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the different degrees within landscape design and landscape architecture. When you first start out, it can be kind of daunting, all the different types of diplomas or degrees that landscape architects or landscape designers might have, and you're probably wondering, well, which one would best suit my needs? In this video, I'm going to cover all the different degrees that are available to landscape designers and landscape architects and the advantages and disadvantages of both. Stick around. Hi everyone. So as I said, the different degrees within landscape design and landscape architecture can be kind of confusing depending upon your station in life and where you are professionally. If you're already starting out in one industry and you're looking to change over to become a landscape designer or landscape architect, or if you're just brand new right out of high school and you want to know really what you need professionally to become a licensed landscape architect, what type of degrees are out there. So I want to talk a little bit about all the different certifications and degrees that are available, and then what the advantages and disadvantages are both. So the first one that I want to talk about is the professional certification. So professional certificate is typically a 1 year or less credential that is typically all intensive for landscape design or landscape maintenance, landscape construction. The classes that you're taking are focused only and specifically on those skills needed to become a landscape designer. Now, this professional certification does not necessarily need to be done at a university level. There are a variety of community colleges that offer professional certifications. There are also state, regional, and national associations that have their credential or certification as a particular landscape designer. So if you're looking, for instance, within the Northeast, a lot of the different states have community colleges that offer landscape design certificates. There are also botanical gardens that offer their credentials as a landscape designer. There are also trade and state industry organizations like the Nursery and Landscape Associations that offer their credentials to become an accredited landscape design professional. And then also nationally, there's the Association of Professional Landscape Designers that have their certification to become a landscape designer. So those certifications are really appropriate for students that may have a background in one particular field, whether it's related to design or landscape or not, and that are just looking to transition to get the technical professional skills that they need to actually become a landscape designer in the field. Now, these students typically don't necessarily need the rigors of a liberal arts education that you might get at a university or a college. So you're not going to get Englishes or maths or any of that other gen ed stuff. You're mainly going to get the certifications or the training to become a particular landscape designer or landscape constructor or maintainer, whatever your particular credential is. Now, the advantage of that is you don't have to necessarily waste time in classes that are not appropriate to your particular needs, but the disadvantage of that is if you're a landscape architectural or you're a potential landscape architecture student, the Landscape Architectural Accreditation Board, or the LAAB, will not recognize a professional certification for landscape architectural registration. In other words, you're not going to be able to become licensed or sit for the licensing test nationally if you just have a professional certificate. So think about that as maybe a stepping stone to getting to where you need to go, or if you're just happy becoming a landscape designer or focusing your attention on working at plant nurseries or garden centers as a landscape designer and not a landscape architect, then the professional certification is probably for you. The next degree we'll take a look at is the associate's degree. The associate's degree is the basic post-secondary degree that you can get at community colleges or at some four-year universities on your way to giving yourself a rigorous college education. The associate's degree is a stepping stone typically for people as they want to transition from a 2-year degree to a 4-year degree in the bachelor's, but it also is very similar to a professional certification where you're getting a lot of intensive instruction within landscape design or horticulture. Now, for those that are interested in a professional certification, the associates might not be appropriate, but for those students that may be in high school and looking to eventually transfer to your 4-year institution, an associate's degree is a very valuable option. The associate's degree gives you credits that not only will train you to become a particular technical professional in landscape design or horticulture or landscape maintenance, but it will also provide you a general liberal arts education that you can use to transfer to four-year institutions, depending on the particular institution that you're transferring from and transferring to. It's also a very affordable option compared to the bachelor's degree. Again, it's a 2-year degree, not a traditional 4-year bachelor's. The difference there is, of course, 2 years of tuition, but also the actual college or university that you're getting at. An associate's degree is typically the terminal degree of community colleges. And so a community college is typically going to be much more affordable versus a bachelor's at a university. The appeal of that is you're paying a lot less for credits that will also transfer to many of these 4-year institutions. So the same kind of client pool that you would get for the professional certification is the same one that you would get for the associates. Students that want a little more education, or rounded education, but also a professional certification. The disadvantages are also similar to that of a professional certification. Currently, the ASLA, or the American Society of Landscape Architects, does not recognize 2-year degrees, an associate's degree in landscape design, as appropriate for licensure purposes. So, in other words, if you're on track and you want to become later on a licensed landscape architect, you would eventually need to get a bachelor's degree in landscape architecture from an accredited institution through the ASLA. A lot of students that get their associate's degree, whether it's in landscape design or horticulture or landscape contracting, typically work for larger nurseries, garden centers, or also landscape design and contracting companies to design and build landscapes. Traditionally, it's residential only, but you also could have commercial clients depending on the size and the scope of service that you're actually providing. The next degree is the bachelor's or the baccalaureate degree, specifically in landscape architecture. Now, this degree is the traditional universal university degree that is conferred across the globe. In order to get a bachelor's degree, you're going to actually have to go through a 4-year, at minimum, degree progression with a very rigorous coursework in a particular program or field, along with a fairly substantial general education requirement of Englishes, maths, sciences, and a variety of other metrics that deemed appropriate by that university. Now, for those that are interested in landscape design and landscape architecture, this is where you can start to begin checking off the boxes to obtain licensure. So if you're interested in becoming a licensed landscape architect, you're going to want to check through the ASLA website those programs within your area that are accredited through the licensure body, or through the LAAB. Now, those universities have gone through a rigorous process in which they've been vetted by the Association of Landscape Architects and have been determined to provide a substantial coursework to put you, the student, on the path to becoming a licensed landscape architect. And many of the state chapters of licensure are only going to accept degrees from accredited institutions. Now, if you're interested in becoming a licensed landscape architect, there are also 2 different degrees that you would obtain. There's Bachelors of Landscape Architecture, and then there's also Bachelors of Science in Landscape Architecture. Now, I would argue that the BLA and the BSLA are not going to be very different in the types of courses that you're going to go through. You're going to take the general design studios for landscape architecture, you're going to take graphics courses, you're going to take construction courses so you know how to build things, you're going to take plant identification courses so you'll be able to use plants correctly. But the science, the BSLA, or the science-oriented degree, is going to have a little more rigorous coursework in environmental science, or specifically in horticulture, that maybe the BLA might not. Again, this is very school specific. If you're looking at different degrees and different schools in landscape architecture or landscape design, I would also make sure that you check out the article that I published on draftscapes.com specifically on the key factors to look for in a landscape design or landscape architectural program. It also has a spreadsheet there that you can print out when you're reviewing different programs, so you can check off the different types of things that you're looking for and what the benefits or the advantages are of each program at the university level that you're looking for. Okay, so the bachelor's degree is the main degree that you would get as a landscape architect if you're working towards licensure. But it's not the only one that's available to you. Another degree that's available to you is also the master's degree of landscape architecture. The Masters of Landscape Architecture is typically a 2 to 3 year degree depending on the institution, and it's very beneficial for emerging design professionals that may have had a bachelor's degree in an unrelated field and are looking to come to a design field like landscape architecture, or it's for students that actually have done a landscape architectural degree but want to hone their craft specifically with an institution that might have a research focus that is of particular interest to them. Now, there are a wealth of different Masters of Landscape Architecture programs across the globe, so I'm going to provide a quick overview on a number of different things to look out for when you're reviewing what type of things might be appropriate for you for a master's degree. Now, the first question that we want to ask ourselves is a master's degree appropriate for you, or should you actually get a master's degree? And to answer that question, you actually have to ask yourself a few other questions. First, what do you actually want to do when you get out with your master's degree? Now, if your answer to that question is you just want to become a licensed landscape architect, then you don't necessarily need a master's degree. If you haven't received a bachelor's of landscape architecture, you could get a master's degree in landscape architecture and then sit for licensing exams to become a licensed landscape architect. However, if you already have a bachelor's degree in landscape architecture or a BSLA, Bachelor's of Science in Landscape Architecture, you don't need a master's in order to practice as a licensed professional landscape architect. However, if you're interested in going to the academic route or becoming an administrator at a university level, a master's degree is the bare minimum that you'll need in order to pursue that route. If you're interested in maybe teaching studios at the college level or even within professional certification circles through community colleges or different botanical gardens or trade associations, then a master's degree really is a must. So, depending on where you fall, you want to look for a master's degree program that suits your needs. Another thing to make sure that you want to know is what types of faculty research is going on at the particular university that you're doing your master's at. Master's work is much more independent and faculty focused, where you're going to be engaged in meaningful research within the landscape architectural field with those faculty members. And so you want to make sure that you're vetting the types of research and the type of program that you're getting into before you make the commitment to do that 2 to 3 year Masters of Landscape Architecture degree. Now, the final degree that we'll talk about is the doctoral degree, specifically a PhD in landscape architecture, or in some cases a DDes, a Doctor of Design in a related field like architecture, urban design, landscape architecture, urban planning. Now, these PhD or doctoral students are specifically getting their degree for the purposes of high-end university academic work, not necessarily only because they want to become a licensed landscape architect or a professional landscape designer. For these specific individuals, the coursework is extremely rigorous. There is an enormous publishing and research component in order to get your doctorate degree. And these degrees also require a high degree of faculty coordination, along with an original dissertation that you'll defend per standard doctoral candidate procedures. Additionally, since these degrees are fairly recent within the realm of landscape architecture, there are not a lot of PhD programs in landscape architecture, so your choices in what type of program you're getting into might be fairly limited. So if you're interested in the doctoral route, I would say before you go on that path, make sure that you have a very good understanding of what landscape architecture is, what your goals are after the PhD, and also think about, if you don't already have a master's yet, pursuing a master's degree and then taking some time off before going on to the PhD program. If you're interested in going the PhD route, I would definitely recommend reaching out to the specific college programs you're looking at and asking the faculty for information on their alumni, what they did afterwards, what the career goals or professional options are for individuals with those PhDs. But typically you're going to find that they're much more academic based and not necessarily specific to the profession of landscape design or landscape architecture. So that really wraps it up. You have the 4 main degrees within landscape design and landscape architecture. Hopefully I did a good job identifying the advantages or disadvantages of both, and then you'll really have to make your own decision of what's appropriate to you. Now, if you're new to landscape design, you don't exactly know which way to go or what you're thinking of, make sure that you check out all the other videos on this channel, and also go over to draftscapes.com, where there's a variety of different articles that I wrote on landscape design, landscape architecture for the design professional along with the student. Okay? And if you like this stuff, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button, and I'll see you at the next video. Okay? Thanks, guys.